I am really excited to kind of kick us off for our next session, which is Cultivating Innovation. For those of you who are familiar with our program, you know we do this every week. We cultivate innovation with Rhode Island's economic gardener, Tuni Shartner.
So welcome everybody to Cultivating Innovation, as Amy said, informal conversations with Rhode Island's economic gardener. That's kind of my forever hat that I wear, even though I'm the executive director of District Hall and Venture Cafe Providence. We have so much to talk about, and I know we're running over, Amy. We're going to kick it off. We have a lot to talk about with Janet Raymond, who before there was an design, innovation and design district and this robust, what I call a supportive infrastructure, our Rhode Island ecosystem. Janet, like 11 years ago, started an innovation group through the Greater Providence Chamber of Commerce. So we're going to talk about that. But first, we have with Al and Katharine, who are the co-chairs of the new iteration of that group. But first, I think I'm going to call out Liz Tanner, our amazing director of the Department of Business Regulation. Hi, Liz. Who graciously, when I called her this morning, moved her 11:30 to 11 o'clock so she could be on. So you have a new program, how to, am I saying this right? Great glasses, by the way.
These are my Mr. Magoo glasses, I call them.
Well, you are anything but Mr. Magoo, my friend.
I said it a couple of days ago, and everybody was so young on the call, nobody knew who Mr. Magoo was. So it made me old, but.
Yeah, I think some of us do, right? Jim Leach, I'm looking at you and Al. Awesome. So tell us about this new program, and we'll definitely be, Amy has all the links, so she can be dropping the links in the chat. This is great to learn about. I've been a little distracted, so I haven't had time to go down into the website and learn. So I'm just going to hand you the mic. You're going to share your screen, right?
Yep. So hi, everyone. So many friendly faces that I haven't seen in a long time. You are all missed, and I cannot believe I'm finally getting back to talking about things besides COVID. So it's very exciting for me. I'm hoping to only have one job in a couple of months. But this has been super exciting for me because, you know, as many of you know, I think Dave the Deckian's been a part of this. When we started 5 years ago, I think, Dave. I mean, this has been a long time coming. We were ready to launch this March and April of last year, and then, you know, things kind of happened. So we're finally ready to do this. And so this is a website dedicated to opening a restaurant. It also has a food truck space to it, because we found that 1,000 restaurants open up in Rhode Island in a typical year, and about 1,000 restaurants close every year, a typical in Rhode Island. And it has very little to do with the economy. It has more to do with the business owner, right? Like sometimes you're a good cook, sometimes you're a good business person. Rarely do the two meet, right? So we're hoping to try to fill those gaps and voids from whoever it is that's opening up their business. So we created this website. You should know who created it. Everybody did. I mean, Dave will tell you, we had probably 100 people working together over months of time. It's not just restaurant people, it was town employees to help you fill out forms. It was everybody in the state that even comes remotely near opening up a restaurant. So, I mean, we had everybody in there, because what we found happens is I know my part and I know my part and I know my part, but none of them know each other's parts, right? And so getting everybody in a room was really, really valuable to say, look at what can be done to create this website. So we modeled it off of something that we saw actually from the city of Seattle. And we're very, very proud of it. So we'll show you, we call this, this box here, we call it a chutes and ladders chart. And that's really what we modeled it off of, was to say, here are the main things you need to know. Because again, you might be a good cook, and you might be an awful business person. So we struggle to try to have them all. So let me just show you. Obviously, I'm not going to go into the whole thing because it would take forever, because this is an enormous website. It has a wealth of information. But your first step is, are you really sure that you want to open up a restaurant? Like, do you know what you're getting yourself into, right? And so creating plans to help you make that decision. Then we really focus a lot on the location, because there's a lot of complaints over the years about, I wanted to open up my restaurant at this place and I can't for this reason, whether it's because there's not good enough water, or because you can't build on the land because you're by the ocean, or there's wetlands, like there's a million reasons for you not to be able to build. And so many people would say, well, how am I supposed to know? How was I supposed to know that this is a bad location for this reason? And so this prompts you to ask those questions with the locality, with the municipality, to say, what problems might I run into, right? Before you spend thousands and thousands of dollars and get into it. The third one is your general choosing your business structure. What do you need to do? Do you want to be a corporation or an LLC? What do you need to do to get your taxes in order? What are the other business requirements? There's a lot of stuff there. And when should you consider hiring expert help versus doing it yourself? Then they're sort of preparing your location, getting it all together. Again, working with the municipality. What do you have to do with the fire code? What do you have to do with the Department of Health? Again, considering hiring an expert. If you're going to have a big, huge building, might be a little different than if there's already an existing space, right? So all of those kinds of things. Then there's sort of, all right, I'm actually kind of getting ready to open. How do I hire employees and get all the documentation proper for that? Everything else that goes with banking and that. And then finally, the end. How do you actually, kind of keep yourself going, right? How do you take care of your employees? How do you keep yourself growing and learning and training, and things like marketing? Those, again, nobody comes into owning any business, to be perfectly honest, with all of the skills that you need. And so this aims to try to provide all that information for you. And then we have a frequently asked questions section. So it's super comprehensive and have everything you could possibly need. Then we have a whole section on food trucks and trying to how to set up a food truck, because that was a complaint that we heard, gosh, Tuni, again, Dave, 5 years ago? And so we did pass legislation to create a singular licensing scheme through the state. So it used to be that you would go to every municipality and you'd have a different set of rules to set up your food truck in every state. In every municipality. And so what we chose to do is have the state collect all the basic stuff: insurance, your food license, like your fire inspection, so that you don't have to do it over and over and over again at every place. Now, you still do have to get a local license to operate there and find out what the rules are for, where you can park your food truck and stuff like that. But at least now you have everything consolidated, so you don't have to keep getting the same paperwork over and over and over again. And so this is right now the link is Tuni. Can I assume that everybody can get a copy, at least to get it? We'll have it sent to them. Okay.
Absolutely.
So right now, while you can go onto the Commerce RO website, it's very hard to find on there. They're trying to put a banner at the top, but right now you're better off just using the link to get straight to this. And you can see up the top there, it's open a restaurant.
Yep, Amy dropped it in here, how to open a restaurant. It's openarestaurant.commerceri.com/en/ so it's in the chat, and we will share it in post-event marketing. So we will definitely share that.
Yeah, and we feel really good about this. We there was an effort to try to say, well, what do we want to do to make it easier? And again, it was opening a business, opening a restaurant, and building a building. We're starting to already work on doing something like this for doing construction and some sort of building of a building, whether it's residential or commercial. As you can imagine, that's far more complicated than this was already pretty complicated. But this really aimed to let people become aware, because that was probably the biggest complaint was, how am I supposed to know that I needed an extra license to sell shellfish? You know what I mean? And how am I supposed to know that I needed to fill out this tiny little form for the Division of Taxation, right? And so all of that information is right here that you could possibly need to know. And so we hope that people will really use it, test it out, let us know when we need to improve it or make it better. If you have any other ideas, we're more than happy to add on, particularly for the food space for business. But we're really proud of it. It was a huge, huge amount of work over many years.
I remember so many years ago, all this. Remember when I called you frantic because of the food truck issue at the mill and North Kingstown? And then I know I've seen all your crazy colored sticky notes for years. And, you just keep pulling back the layers of the onion, and you're like, I'm going for the heart of that onion, and I don't care how many layers there are. And I just so appreciate you and your team and all you're doing. Thank you for making time to be on. This is awesome. And you kept it within no more than 10 minutes. So I appreciate that. Yay. So
the only thing I do, can I just flag one more thing?
Yeah.
Is Dave Dedekian was kind enough to let us use his interns. Dave, can you remember that? And by the way, I actually still work with Melanie on some COVID stuff, but Dave was kind enough to let us use some of his interns for some of this work, and it was incredibly valuable. So I just want to say thank you to him.
That's awesome.
I completely forgot that, Liz. Good God, that was a long time ago. Thank you. Yeah. Happy to do it, of course.
If any of you read my super long chat comment, it takes a village, and we have the best village here in Rhode Island. And, together we are stronger. And that's just one example, right? It's great. So thank you. So I'm going to call, we have a few usual suspects like Colleen and Shaheen and Monica that I'm going to call out at the very end. But I want to talk because we've been talking for months now about partnering with this group. And I'll let you say what the official name is that you started at least 11 years ago. So you were way ahead of yourself. And the Greater Providence Chamber was doing the garage events that were so cool and fun. And it made us feel like we were on the West Coast. And now we actually have a strong, robust innovation and design district. And it's really fun to be able to continue to work with you on this. Thank you. I have to give a shout out to you and Lori for taking this on a long time ago. And now it's evolved and you keep iterating, right? And you have two co-chairs. So I'll let you take it from here. We have 13 minutes until the next, and I do need a few minutes to call out a few people, but I'll let you take it.
Great, thank you, Tuni. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's great to be partnering with Venture Cafe. As Tuni mentioned, this effort started in 2007, 2008, and it actually started under former Brown president Ruth Simmons, who charged the chamber with coming up with an economic development strategy for Rhode Island at the time. And so we did that. We retained a consultant. We went through what Rhode Island's strengths and weaknesses were. And lo and behold, our strengths were our colleges, universities, and medical systems. The problem or the issue at that time was there were some wonderful things going on in these institutions, but people weren't necessarily talking to one another. I remember graduating, I graduated from the University of Rhode Island, and I took the consultants down to URI, and there must have been 50 deans in a room, in a conference room, all talking about the wonderful things they were doing. And I'm like, oh my God, Rhode Island needs to know about this. So we created this group comprised of colleges, universities, hospitals, and with the primary purpose to come sit around a table, let's talk about what's going on, let's talk about Rhode Island. As you mentioned, over the years, we have pivoted based on what's happening in the state. So for example, when then Governor Raimondo came in and did a whole industry analysis on Rhode Island, we then turned to focus on all those industry sectors and determine what are Rhode Island's strengths, what could we market and promote to try to attract companies to come here. And now in 2021, as you mentioned, with all the changes, we now have, Venture Cafe, District Hall, the Cambridge Innovation Center. So a lot has happened. And so we have once again taken a step back and say, what could we do as a committee? So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to our new two committee co-chairs, Al Dahlberg from Brown and Katharine Flynn from URI.
Thank you, Janet, and thanks, Liz, for that fabulous work you're doing on the opening a restaurant. I remember even back many moons ago when I was at Economic Development, that was a real pain point for many companies in terms of trying to open a restaurant. So kudos to you. Al and I will talk briefly about the newly formed Chamber Innovation Economy Committee. And then we're going to pivot from there to the food world again. And there's a lot of new happenings in the food world here in Rhode Island. And Hope and Maine has been a stalwart part of the community for a long time, but we've got a lot of new faces and you're going to meet a few of them in a little bit. But just to give you a quick overview of the sort of newly formed Chamber Innovation Economy Committee, we sat down, Al and Janet and I, and talked about, as Janet mentioned, there are all these new players, all these new people, where should this committee be focused and where can we actually make a difference in the Rhode Island community? And we came up with three areas of focus. The first being sort of an advocacy area. So advocating at the State House, at other locations for the innovation and entrepreneurship economy. The second was just connecting innovators to and in the whole ecosystem, not just food, the whole ecosystem, connecting innovators to the corporate community, to other larger corporations. And so we sit around the table now with a lot of the private sector as well as the universities. And the last is just to cross-market activities and opportunities within the innovation economy. And that's what we're doing right now. So working with people like Tuni, working with others, trying to sort of get the word out about all the activities in the innovation and entrepreneurship world. And the RIHub is another example. It hasn't been mentioned, but they're a new group up in Providence in the Cambridge Innovation Center that is doing a lot of great work, where Al Brown and URI and others have come together, IBM, and we've got a lot of great events planned there. Al, I don't know if you want to say a few words as well.
Yeah, thanks, Katharine, and thanks, Tuni, for having us on. So the bottom line is we welcome new people to join the Innovation Economy Committee. As Janet and Katharine said, we kind of reconstituted ourselves during COVID, and we've had several great meetings so far. We try to have invite speakers who can talk about the innovation ecosystem, what the opportunities and challenges are, and what they see ahead of us. So we had Jake Curtis, a researcher at Brown, a professor who's working on a cure for malaria. And we had Sandy Chen from Graphene Composites speak to us. And then we had Aidan Petrie from NEMIC also talk about the innovation and entrepreneurship community in Rhode Island. They all had some great gems and terrific takeaways. So we're trying to collect all the advice and the takeaways and the nuggets, as I call them, and collect them, and then help. That will form our advocacy agenda, and then we will spread that to inform the rest of the chamber and hopefully other groups. What we want to avoid in the Innovation Economy Committee is duplicating some of the great work that CIC and RIHub and Venture Cafe and SEG are doing. The previous iteration of the Innovation Economy Committee was kind of an early locus of social capital, but we don't need to be anymore because, Tuni, you're doing it. You're doing that and so much more with amazing programming as well. So it's a great opportunity just to take stock of how far we've come in the last 12 years since this economy first started, as Janet referred to. And we've made incredible progress.
I really appreciated that you took a step back. I'm always saying that to our team, right? And I see Shaheen's face and Amy's face. Let's take a step back before we take a step forward. And I loved the survey you sent out to the ecosystem and said, hey, when we started, we were at, and now there's all of that we've named, right? Us, RIHub, CIC, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. 401 Tech Bridge, we're a bigger ecosystem, right? And I really appreciated that you didn't want to be, I'm not going to say the word right, duplicate. Nope, I'm not even going to try it. You didn't want to.
Duplicative.
Thank you. Leave it to the academics here. And I think that's our magic in Rhode Island, right? We all work really well together and never want to replicate what someone else is already doing. We all want to ensure that we're complementing one another and supporting one another. And it's just so proud. You know how I get teary. Many of us have been working decades on this, right? And I call this last 8-10 years in particular the time of the great convergence, because so many of us were in parallel lanes. And you were the beginning of bringing us all together, Janet and Lori, right? And those early events, those innovative events, the garage events, they were like, wow, and we've come so far. So I do like to celebrate the small and big wins. As Jesse from the Commerce said to me once, when I said, I finally lifted my head up and wow, look at all we've done. He said, you don't have time to lift your head up, put your head back down, roll up your sleeves. We still have a long way to go, but super proud of, Team RI, as I call it. And I always use the hashtag Together We Are Stronger. So thank you for this, because though many of us are connected and work together all the time and collaborate on stuff, I've always enjoyed those meetings, because even though you see some people that you see a lot, you see others that you don't. So you've done a really good job of bringing together people that need to know what everyone's doing, you know, and then bring it back to your point, Al, bring it back out there. So really excited to partner with you on at least 2 events this year, right? And then 3 to 4 next year. So very exciting. We have a great panel coming up. Lori's going to moderate. She's one of my favorite moderators, so I'm super excited for that. Thank you 3 for all you're doing. I'm just going to do a quick shout out. I see Shaheen. What do we have coming up in Cambridge today? Because we hop off here at 1 virtually. Then we hop on virtually at Venture Cafe Cambridge at 1:30. I highly recommend everyone joins at least the 1:30 to 2 session with Shaheen, similar to this session. So what do we have going in Cambridge today?
Tuni, I don't know if you heard your own Boston accent come out just as you were saying, roll your sleeves back up. What are you doing relaxing? That felt oddly familiar.
We got hustle in Rhode Island. I know we're, you know, laid back and we surf and sail, but we got hustle.
You got it. Cool. Thanks for the shout out. And hi, everybody. My name is Shaheen. I'm the director of Venture Cafe Cambridge. Into the chat right now, I just dropped a link to our calendar. Today, we've got the 1:30 session, Make Things Happen, which is synonymous with cultivating innovation. We'll be doing that at 1:30, and followed by that, we've got one of our ecosystem partners, Techstars, the managing director, who's going to be giving a talk on KPIs, how basically you set your company goals so you don't tank it. And he's going to be giving a presentation on that, followed by how do you leverage your network, and then finishing it off with Chuck Goldstone, who has his own roundtable and storytelling company. He's going to be talking about how we convey our brand, our message, by delivering the value and not just airwaves. So jam-packed schedule today.
He's walked his talk with the roundtable. He's done a fantastic job with that. Jordan and Amy and I just met with a great startup founder who was born in Boston, raised in New York. She's moved back to Boston, has a great med tech startup. And we strongly suggested, her name is Claudia, not our Claudia, but that she be on that program. And we also strongly suggested the Chuck Goldstone. So I hate to use that phrase, 2 birds. I'll just say 2 birds because it's kind of a negative thing, but hopefully she'll join you today.
All good.
All right.
Great to see everybody. Thanks. Cool.
Awesome. Amy, right under. How did I do?
Did fairly well. I think
fairly well. She's so tough on me.
I think we definitely have started a good one here. We have 1 minute left, so I am going to just use my last minute to say next week is MedTech Innovation, and we're also going to hit back in person. Tuni mentioned it earlier. Check your email for those links, as we don't quite have that in-person one ready yet, but that's also limited to 25 people. So as soon as you get the link, if you want to be there in person, make sure you sign up.
That's next Thursday, our
next
first
Thursday, yes.
Catherine's raising her hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that there is plan for future programming in partnership with Tuni and Amy for our committee, and we're going to be focusing on different sectors of the ecosystem. So today is food, and to be determined, but I think we've got a plan for the next one as well. So I just wanted to let people know that this is going to be hopefully an ongoing series. So. And on the food front, URI has just put together a large booklet, 40 plus pages of our food capabilities. And that booklet I'll send the link to for Tuni and company. It's amazing when you actually put everything together, what's happening, at least at
Can you
URI.
drop it in the chat too, Catherine?
I don't have the link right now because it's not even been officially blessed, but it will be, and it's going to be amazing. And I will get it to you as soon as I have it.